Right, so this video is about the Christmas Carol. No, not that one. For many a starry-eyed Christmas lover, the bleak midwinter would feel still bleaker if they did not get to hear their favorite Burl Ives or Nat King Cole classic at least once around the holidays. And unlike relatively new traditions such as the Christmas card, which has only been widely traded since 1843, or the New Year's Eve ball drop that has only been descending on Times Square since 1907, the Christmas Carol dates all the way back to the 4th century, the same century in which the Romans began celebrating the birth of Christ on a yearly basis. For the curious, the first Christmas carol ever sung is credited to Saint Hilary of Poitiers. It is called Jesus Refulsit Omnium, or Jesus Light of All the Nations, and it is every bit the toe tapper one would expect from an era of music before Gregorian chants were fun, cool, and hip. Not the kind of musical whimsy by which I would expect to have a holly jolly Christmas, but who am I to yuck the yum of St. Hilary of Poitiers? Needless to say, the Christmas Carol has metamorphosized a bit since the 4th century, and today it enjoys a longevity that is practically unrivaled by any other musical genre, in that while the popular music of a given time period tends to lose its perceived relevance as it ages.
Well, that old man River must know something, but he don't say nothing.
A Christmas song from the same era can easily turn into a perennial favorite, allowing it, in a sense, to become immortal, or at least very hard to kill.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Wait, hard to kill? But I love Christmas, I hear you cry from your mistletoe-laden doorways and your Santa laps. What kind of sadistic Scrooge would want to kill a Christmas Carol? Well, if I'm honest, my alibi is not very good. But as for the motive... Let's just say there are some Christmas carols, or their renditions, or both, that could lead a jury to conclude the song-aside in question was a mercy killing. To be clear, I do not in any way want to yuck your yum where holiday music is concerned any more than I wanted to yuck the yum of St. Hilary of Poitiers. However, it is my opinion that the mutation of the Christmas Carol has a pretty insidious side to it, one that pays lip service to comfort and joy every year while stripping the Christmas soundtrack of its genuine pathos. And I came to this conclusion after learning how just a handful of carelessly rewritten lyrics turned what should have been my favorite Christmas carol into my least favorite Christmas carol.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
If you happen to love this or any other Christmas song, that's wonderful. Please keep doing that. But to me personally, this song, more than any other, conjures images of a sanitized, curated, plastic Christmas. One with assorted lounge singers of various musical backgrounds, trying to sell the listening populace a lofty load of retail-priced comfort and joy that will make us all believe in sugar plum fairies and Christmas miracles and especially Black Friday sales. And I really, truly get the appeal. It would be pretty cool if having a merry little Christmas was all it took for our troubles to be out of sight from now on. But for many people, Christmas happens in a war zone, or amid a graveyard shift that turns out to be the stuff of nightmares, or despite the accidental death of a loved one, or the long-term tragic consequences of what should have been the perfect gift. Like, please don't get me wrong. This is still Christmas, and you are not wrong if it brings you joy. But for large sectors of the populace, this is also Christmas, and you're not wrong if it brings you sorrow. And I say all of this more in the spirit of adding context to what I want to say next, rather than that of being a Christmas killjoy. Because, believe it or not, I do have a favorite version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And that version happens to be on an objectively terrible album called Christmas in the Heart by Bob Dylan.
Who's got a
beard that's long and white. Sam's got a beard that's long and white.
Yea, verily, my fellow music lovers. In addition to all manner of personal and global tragedies that could easily make someone sadder around the holidays not happier, every December that comes to pass there is an unknown number of Christmas-time revelers who find themselves unable to repress the memory that once upon a midnight clear, Mr. Bob Dylan's agent, noticed that some music makers are able to generate revenue each year from the sale of their holiday album and concluded Mr. Dylan should do the same. The results were unfortunate by every meaningful metric. Like, I am a genuine, shameless fan of this album. Yet every time Mr. Dylan says,
"Do you hear what I hear?"
I find myself thinking, no, I don't think so. If you heard what I heard, Mr. Dylan, you would turn and repent. I was regrettably unable to find the precise quote or its source while compiling my notes for this video, but on Columbia Records' release of Christmas in the Heart in 2009, the critical consensus seemed to be that Bob Dylan sings I'll Be Home for Christmas as though it was a threat.
I'll be home for Christmas.
And yet, while the majority of this album is kinda low effort and more an endurance exercise for the listener than a pleasure, there lurks within its disharmony a reminder that there are some years in which sentiments like Happy Holidays feel like they are for someone else. Check this out. When most musicians sing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, a couple lines in, a given listener hears the words,
From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
but at that same measure in Mr. Dylan's version, they hear,
Next year, all our troubles will be out of sight.
feel the difference? Well, stick around, because that's not the only deviation, where most singers encourage the listener to
Ain't a shining star upon the highest mountain.
Mr. Dylan tells the listener frankly and candidly that
Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow.
and the more you listen, the more it dawns on you that this is not a song for holiday cheerleaders who think that having oneself a merry little Christmas is easy. It is a song for people whose comfort and joy have deserted them for any number of reasons. The ones who find themselves muscling their way through this Christmas with knuckles whitened and fingers clenched around the desperate hope that not all Christmases will be like this one. And I was all set to sing the praises of Bob Dylan and Bob Dylan alone for the strategic lyric change that transformed a downright saccharine song that lies about everything into something far more complex and heartfelt. But in the attics of my mind, where the Christmas memories of my youth are stored, I could have sworn I'd heard the melancholic version of this song before. Maybe not exactly the way it appears on Christmas in the Heart, but I was reasonably sure I'd heard the bit about muddling through somehow from other artists, albeit infrequently. So I asked the internet if it knew who did the first sad version of the song. And this is where the insidiousness of the Christmas Carol mutation shows its tinsel-spangled ass. Because there's this gross tendency among music makers with a commercial interest in the holiday season to reframe carols like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas through the technicolor lens of gratuitous cheer and purposely change the song's entire meaning. For a completely different instance of this dirty trick at work, ever hear of a song called We Need a Little Christmas?
Right this very minute, candles in the window, carols at the spinning.
While this song is now a peppy holiday staple with words that never ostensibly deviate from the warm and fuzzy, it was originally written for a 1966 musical called Mame. And in the context of that show, when Auntie Mame sings it, she is about to lose her house, and her newly orphaned nephew, Patrick, the one she has just lately been deemed unfit to raise, has just walked through her door after running away from his foster situation. It is not even close to Christmas time, but Auntie Mame and nephew Patrick have had a rough couple of months, both together and separately. And in a moment of mania-fueled whimsy, Auntie Mame decides that a little defiant optimism in Christmas's clothing would go a long way to uncrapifying their day.
For I've grown a little leaner, grown a little colder, grown a little sadder, grown a little older, and I need a little angel sitting on my shoulder. Need a little Christmas now.
Similarly, Have Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was never supposed to be a feel-good ballad to open presents by. It was made famous by Judy Garland in a 1944 movie called Meet Me in St. Louis, and it is sung to a little sister experiencing the first blue Christmas of her young life, by a big sister doing her best to provide reassurance that, yeah, this Christmas might suck, kiddo, but we're going to get through it as a family, and trust that we will see better ones down the road.
Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow.
Of course, it might be possible that American audiences in 1944 had a thing or two on their minds that would make the prospect of a better, happier Christmas in the unspecified future more fun to contemplate than the Christmas at hand. But that is idle speculation on my part, and I can't be bothered to empathize with people who probably look better in shoulder pads than I do. Nevertheless, the tone of the scene in which this particular Christmas song was set is far closer to Hard Candy Christmas than it is to Jingle Bells, and that was a tone that did not need fixing. Not in 1944 on that movie's release, nor in 1948 when a young Frank Sinatra first recorded the song. But by 1957, an older, bitchier Frank Sinatra approached Hugh Martin, the composer for Meet Me in St. Louis, about recording the song a second time but with happier lyrics, specifically objecting to the implication that anyone would have to muddle through the holidays. Quoth Mr. Sinatra, "The name of my album is A Jolly Christmas. Do you think you could jolly up that line for me?" Mr. Martin, of course, complied with that request, jollied up the lyrics, and for better or worse, the focus of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas forever shifted from guarded optimism toward a brighter future to present happiness. And the present happiness version won out over guarded optimism by such a landslide that when I tried to look up the sheet music as a visual aid for this video, the first thing I noticed was a paywall, obviously, but the second thing I noticed was that the jolly lyrics are the only ones readily available. Hell's Own Jingle Bells by 1963, even Judy Garland had gotten on board with the jollification process, as evidenced by the version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas she sang on the Judy Garland Christmas special that year.
Hang a shining star upon the highest bough.
Nicely played, Mr. Sinatra, if that is your real name. And I'm sure that is only one of many reasons that Atra lost top billing to Sin. Anyway, to sum up, Christmas carols have been with us on planet Earth for almost as long as Christmas itself. Some of those carols are more fun to sing than others. Some are best enjoyed when you don't think about the lyrics too hard. And some become near and dear to our hearts even when their singer has a voice like a rock tumbler. Also, just like any art form anywhere, from paintings to movies to video games to radio jingles, the Christmas carol can evoke all sorts of emotions worth having. Comfort and joy are only two of them. And if this happens to be one of those Decembers in which your personal comfort and joy is in short supply, I love you, I've been there. Please persevere. Have the merriest Christmas the fates allow, and let's collectively do our best to keep that old candle of hope lit by which better Christmases might find us down the road. As always, thank you for giving these videos a shot. If it made you feel better, not worse, feel free to share it. If you hated it lots, feel free to say something nasty in the comments on behalf of Team Krampus. Until we meet again, take it easy. Loves you, past, present, and future.